Pokémon Sun and Moon. If you'll excuse the wordplay, they were kind of eclipsed by Ultra Sun Ultra Moon. Oh, a third version totally should have been called Pokémon Eclipse. Anyway, yeah. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were released just a year after the original Sun and Moon games. And many people would argue that it's no longer worth playing Sun and Moon. The Ultra games refined everything, added a ton of new stuff, expanded the story. It's a much grander affair. Well, I just had another full playthrough of the base game of Pokémon Moon, and I want to take a few minutes to talk about why I think the originals are still worth playing, even with the added availability of the Ultra versions. So let's hop in. The first point I want to mention is the experience of the region itself. If you want to really dive into Alola, immerse yourself in the atmosphere and rich culture of the place, the original Sun and Moon games are the best way to do that in my opinion. The games are much more focused around the Alola region and its traditions, and your voyage of exploration and discovery, as opposed to the Ultra games where that stuff is still there for you to enjoy if you take a few detours to seek it out, but the focus is pulled away a little bit, as we're looking at alternate worlds and dimensions taking more of a center stage role. Our attention is pulled a little further away from Alola in the Ultra games. The games are set there, but we're kinda looking up more than we are around us. There is a slower pace to Sun and Moon. If you've played these games before, you'll know what I'm mainly talking about. There's a lot of dialogue. You have to be prepared to take up a very leisurely pace with Pokémon Sun and Moon. There are numerous points where you barely get to run 7 or 8 steps before you're thrust into another bout of chatter with Lily, or Hao, or some other character. But if you are prepared to do that, and maybe even want to soak in the interactions, it's a very laid-back experience. The Hawaii influences come through really well. I really would recommend actually, once you do get free reign in a town or city within Sun and Moon, after dealing with all the dialogue and everything else that does interrupt you as you're running along, just having a look around. Look around some buildings, chat to some NPCs. You'll happen across some interesting little nuggets of information, I guarantee. So if you want a more relaxed and attentive journey through the Alola region, Sun and Moon are the way to go. This video isn't a Sun and Moon versus Ultra Sun Ultra Moon thing, by the way, but yeah, if you have that preference, the originals are absolutely still great to jump into. Speaking of where the focus is, my next point is kinda similar, in that Sun and Moon are much more focused on your own personal journey throughout the region, as well as the relationships you're building along that journey. Like I mentioned before, the Ultra games do have those extra things going on. You're travelling around and doing your island trials, but you're constantly reminded of this bigger thing that's been built up to. This higher narrative with Necrozma, that makes everything you're doing seem kind of irrelevant. The originals give more screen time to your blossoming friendship with Lily, and her personal growth as well. There's a lot of that that's left out in the Ultra games to give service to the whole Necrozma plot. One of my favourite moments in the original Pokémon Sun and Moon is that ending scene with Lily boarding the ship to leave for Kanto. It's such a bittersweet moment as we're happy that she's taken this step to jump into the wider world and become stronger as a person and a trainer, but also sad to see that this friend we've made over our adventure is leaving, and we're never going to see them again. We can't even bump into them in the post-game. This scene isn't in the Ultra games, so if you skip over Sun and Moon, you're missing out on such a moving interaction that I think ties the game up well and leaves a lasting impression. So to experience a more personal and grounded story, Pokémon Sun and Moon are absolutely still worth a play. Touching on other characters in the game there, that's another thing. Lusamine arguably loses a bit of her villainy in the Ultra games. I think in my Ultra Sun Ultra Moon video a little while back, I mentioned that I kinda prefer Lusamine's character in the Ultra games. I think I've not U-turned per se, but pulled myself back onto an even balance when it comes to Lusamine. In the original games, she's much more toxic, much more unhinged in what she's doing, whereas in the Ultra games, she comes across as more misguided. She's still doing wrong, but more out of naivety rather than malicious intent, and I've actually come to appreciate both. And I've come to really enjoy that she's the kind of character that shows just how subtle differences can shape a character in wildly different ways, lead them down very different paths. If you want a story with a more brash, less sympathetic villain, Sun and Moon is where you're going to get that. There's a lot more gravity and a lot more dramatic oh my god moments in Lucamine's arc in the originals. It's something you don't want to skip over if you're a fan of the mainline games, because there are some big moments in there. The emotional impact of the characters' interactions and stories hit harder in the originals too. The relationship between Lily and Lucamine feels way more intense. Team Skull feels like they get a bit more of the limelight, without the Ultra Recon Squad also butting in there too, as much as I do kinda like them. The originals have the essentials of these characters in their purest form and in the biggest spotlight. The Ultra games have more content, obviously, which for many people will be the ultimate argument for never bothering with the original versions at all. And there are some really good improvements that were made with the Ultra versions. More characters, more legendaries, more post-game. The menus even are a level above for me. I love the menus in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Maybe my favourite in the whole franchise actually. These went so hard. And after going through a little more retrospection for this video, I've come to view the Ultras as a solid reason to replay the Alola games. I mentioned that they came out just a year after the original titles, and how strange that must have been. I actually wasn't around the mainline games during the Gen 7 era, so I didn't experience this at the time. Maybe that's why it's so interesting to me. But a few years ago, when I was going back and playing all the games I missed, I actually did play through the entirety of Pokémon Sun, and then immediately started playing Pokémon Ultra Moon right after it. And that's because I really enjoyed the original Pokémon Sun. Yes, it was a bit of a slog, but I really like the Alola region, so I wanted to do it all again. And I quickly realised that I didn't feel like I was just immediately replaying the same game again. So I was glad that I didn't just dive straight into the Ultras. So I personally would not recommend just skipping over the original Pokémon Sun and Moon and jumping right into Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. And if you did, if a bit of time's gone by, go back and play the originals. I think you'll have a really chill time with them. So why don't you guys tell me what you think of the Gen 7 games? Do you still go back and play the original Sun and Moon titles? Or are the Ultra games your go-to whenever you want a taste of Alola again? Let me know what you think down in the comments. While you're down there, please do drop a like on the video, subscribe for more Pokemon content, pick up one of our new channel memberships if you'd like to see your name in the credits here. I've actually tweaked things so your name will appear in the credits regardless of what tier you're in. I've decided I don't want to lock that behind any certain tier. But if you'd also like access to exclusive updates, sneak peeks, as well as a monthly blog post where I'll be rambling about things that you won't hear in my videos, the AOK member tier is where that will be. And of course, join the Discord if you'd like to chat over there too. Integration with YouTube memberships is also kicked in over there now too. So if you're a member, you'll get a unique role, username, colour and badge. Thanks so much for watching, take it easy, and I'll catch you all in the next one.